Hey everybody, welcome to Grimsforge Gaming. Today we are going to jump in. I'm going to show you our PvP training center that we have on Garrick. And our guild that we've been working with has been using this a lot. We've had a lot of other guilds interested in coming and getting time in as well. But let's go through and we'll kind of show you what we have built here. From the outside, this looks like a massive shoebox. But there's a lot of utility built inside. The first thing to note is these large penta shields currently are public access, and as long as people behave themselves, we'll leave it public access, as well as the training areas are public access, so that way the different guilds that share our server with us or sieges with us, they can all come in and make use of this space. And ideally, we can coordinate our training efforts. But a couple things about this. Number one, if we're not trying to nickel and dime ourselves with durability loss, we won't actually finish a downed opponent. But accidents do happen, and in the event that those accidents would happen, one of the first things that we ask is when you come in to make use of the space, land on the shipwreck that's right there, and it will save it'll have a save point for you. And with that save point, you'll have a respawn location. Or we have a public access chest right here that has respawn beacons in it, and you can drop those respawn beacons anywhere through here in case accidents happen. Okay, so the first spot that we have, this is going to be called the labs entrance. The thought process behind the labs entrance is we want to create a space that has some vertical combat to it, right? The labs have the staircases entering or exiting the labs, and a lot of fights happen there, bottlenecks happen. And so being able to hold the staircase or advance or push up or down, and learning how to do that is pretty important. And so we wanted to try and have a spot where we could kind of simulate that. Anyways, this lab space is going to be multiple rooms. So the very first room has a stairwell here, so there is some line of sight. And then we got a room here with some different various obstacles and you can even hide inside these and create you can set up some traps. Also, this space, both spaces, the dueling arena and the labs, are large enough for 4v4 or even 4v4v4, which we had talked about. One team goes in, second team comes in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and then team 3 enters the fray as well. These areas too, the lab and the dueling arena, they both have spectator areas, which we'll talk about those as well. So this is the second floor of our dueling arena, and we tried to simulate a little office situation here. And I think this is, we were talking about maybe putting chests here. And there's a scenario where you're waiting for the chest to respawn, and hopefully the changes that they're implementing to the game with the loot and being instanced will kind of get rid of that. Nobody likes waiting up to 2 hours for stuff to spawn in, right? But anyways, there's a lot of corners and places. So if you're going through practicing room clearing or trying to locate people and you don't necessarily have your scanner on you, which you should when you're running labs regularly, you should carry this with you so you can target where teams are at or enemy players are hidden. This is the main floor of our labs area. And there's a little bit more verticality to this, for me, I can kind of move around and play the trooper play style with this while the sword masters are slicing and dicing on the ground. But anyways, these penta shields right here are the spectator areas for this floor, and it works out really well. I'm one of the few people that can actually go through or come out of that, so that way our participants can't accidentally, while they're flying, go through that. They'll hit it and bounce off of it, or somebody's up there spectating, they decide to jump in because they're being silly, right? They're not able to go through it from that side, so they're stuck up there as a spectator. We have another floor to this. Here's the chest that Hate put in, so that way we can emulate just guarding a chest. And there's a lot of different scenarios that you can play out like a game called Protect the President, right? And so that individual is basically the individual that has the schematics on them, and our job is to spring them or get them out free and clear from the lab, you know. So we have to peel for them and get them out and get them in the air. And so Protect the President's a fun game that we like to do. This is the top floor. There's a spectating area where they can come up through and watch and see the fights. There is some dead space in the corner here, so I might adjust this so that way the spectators don't have to rotate around. And we'll flesh this upstairs out a little bit more, but it's been working out really well. So this will get fleshed out over here. So that's our labs side of it, and let's go down. We're going to jump in the dueling arena side of it. It's important to have a training facility like this, I think, if you're adverse to PvP, you're trying to avoid PvP. If you're trying to avoid PvP and only PvPing in the instances where and when it happens, you're not probably going to have very good results, right? So by having a training facility that's conducive of learning, right? Iron sharpens iron. Nobody is trying to be, you know, the dominant bully in the room. Everyone's trying to make everyone better, right? High tide raises all ships. You can actually speed up your learning process at a space like this, and the hands-on experience that you learn, or even sitting and watching and witnessing, the level of experience that you'll learn will speed your progression up exponentially, right? Might take you 6 months to a year to actually experience things firsthand in the wilds, right? In the deep desert, you know, you're running into PvP once a day and then you're like, I'm good, I'm not trying to do that again. But if you jump into a training scenario like this and kind of run yourself through the rigors, when those moments happen, you'll be good for it. So the dueling arena. So this has a spectating area all the way around it, and when you walk in the door, this is ground level or floor of the dueling area. So team one will start over here behind the shields. 3, 2, 1, go, and then it's engage. We tried to create some level of obstacles, right? So you can line of sight still for those ranged people or whatever, but for the most part we wanted this to be just kind of a flatter situation, right? The labs are more vertical PvP. This is more of a large maybe overland, you know, outside the labs and stuff like that, so you can kind of shig around and stuff, you know, and create angles above. So anyways, we're going to be hosting some dueling tournaments. We'll have to figure out what the rewards situation is going to look like. But more importantly, we would like to start partnering up and schedule times with other guilds that are on Garrick that are interested in getting their individuals better in a PvP atmosphere. And some of the things that we touch base on are going to be like where and when to dash. You know, you only have, depending on your armor, anywhere from 5 to...
Sector weather alert. A large
storm coming in, so you'll get to see what this looks like with the storm in. But it makes for interesting combat when a storm's coming through. But you know, you only have anywhere, depending on your armor. If you're all heavy armor, you'll have 5 dashes in you, and in light armor you might have 7. But that's if you were just stationary or standing still, right? Which we know is not the scenario in a PvP environment. You're usually using abilities that are expending stamina and whatnot. So it makes your dashes very, very valuable. So, anyways. What they're finding is, especially as sword masters, there's a lot of things that you can parry. You can parry light attacks, you can parry slow blades, you can even be staggered or stunned, and it will look like that you're not going to be parrying, but if you initiate the parry at the right time, you will come out of that stagger or stun right into a parry of someone's slow blade. And you can...
Sector weather alert. A large sandstorm is approaching.
Large sandstorm approaching, so we'll get to see what this looks like with the sandstorm. But there's a lot of different things you can parry. Once you get more proficient at parrying, you end up burning less dashes to avoid damage, and you can conserve those dashes for repositioning. I'm out of position, outnumbered, and I need to you know, dash to line of sight or try and create a very quick 1v1. You know, if there's 3 people that I'm fighting, I don't want to be standing in between all three of them, so let's try and get them to stand in a line, so that way they hinder each other's attacks against me as sword masters, right? So learning when to dash and when to parry, and how valuable parry is in conserving dashes has been one of the biggest lessons. And then a proper rotation as well, and then how to complement your weapon loadout. So if you're using crippling strike as a sword master, you know, your goal, you're already built kind of towards stand checking your opponents. So maybe running a drill shot would be a nice follow-up weapon as well, and you might even be able to hip fire it. And so say you have the ambition that has 4 slugs in it, you don't have to fire all 4 slugs immediately, because if you do that, one dash clears them all. But if you use those individually to force additional dashes out of the opponent, you've now helped kill them, right? They're stand checking themselves. So hit them with a crippling strike, and maybe hit them with a slow blade, make them dash out of the slow blade, then hip fire your slug into them, your drill shot, make them dash out of that, and they're probably spent. You still have 2 abilities on cooldown that you can use, and you still have 3 slugs in the chamber. And so that's very important, like learning how to do those things in an environment that is conducive of learning, like less stress, right? Let's get good at this. So also gunplay, and for the trooper, you know, the trooper life, which is hard knocks life. You're trying to stay away from sword masters as they're continually trying to gap close to you. So how do you create space, and how do you put damage into them? How do you shred their shields, or how do you apply pressure beyond the shields, you know, through either drill shots or status effects like poison or flame? And so these are all like really important lessons that a lot of people could learn. Another thing too that we've been focusing on in this space is team play. So in a 4v4, I might be fine and not taking a whole lot of pressure, but Kyle, who's front row, is taking a lot of pressure. I might need to burn my Suspensor Blast just to peel for him, right? Just to give him a breather to get them off of him. And so that's been pretty valuable to learn where and when to use your items. You know, for me, I like to sit on Suspensor Blast to either A, save myself, or B, save someone else, right? And so that's really nice. You could also use it for C, securing a kill. They're low on stamina, and you want to make sure that they don't recover from that. Hit them with a Suspensor Blast, and then finish them off. But anyways, there's so many different lessons that we've been covering here for people, and group play and how to work together, how to coordinate. You know, the groups find out that it's so very important to stick together, to stay together. Also, they're learning how to deal with gravity mine. They're learning how to deal with all the different abilities that are problematic. Attractor field, which is used a lot, specifically in dueling and stuff like that as well. It's you know, and in team fights, there's one individual or 2 individuals in a team that's using this ability as a shot caller, right? You see this go out on somebody, you light them up with your shotgun, right? And they're off the board, they're out of the equation. And so how do you deal with a tractor field, and how do you deal with gravity mine, and how do you deal with, you know, collapse grenade? And so there's so many fun things control wise that teams can make use of. And then I guess finally the other thing is outside of this space, you know, we have this massive shipwreck that we're located next to, which is, we're right here in Haga Basin, right? And so we're right at this shipwreck. This whole space can be used as an overland training area. So what we can do is we can send one team out, you know, and they got 60 seconds to get set up, and then 60 seconds, you know, whoever's organizing it can fire a rocket in the air, and that lets the teams know that, you know, Team 2's on their way. You can even introduce Team 3 and Team 4 and have a huge, you know, battle. But being able to utilize the wreck indoors and outdoors, and this is a great simulation of the fights that happen outside the labs, which, you know, now all of a sudden Shig comes onto your bar if you're not running it normally in labs, because you're running a different ability outside of the labs when, you know, mobility is paramount, getting Shig on your bars, but which ability is that taking the place of and not affecting your rotation? So anyways, I look forward to meeting people. We're on Garrick, and this PvP training center that we built has so many different functions. We've already been using it, and we're looking forward to partnering up or collaborating with other guilds that want to get better as well in PvP. So, all right, you guys be safe out there. Bye.